Right now at 6 o'clock, an I-Team exclusive, a cold case closed with 2 arrests here in Jacksonville in the mysterious death more than a decade ago of this little girl in central Alabama.
This is the Amore Wiggins story about a young girl whose skeletal remains were found January 2012 in an Opelika, Alabama trailer park. After more than a decade of searching for the identity of the young girl, authorities now know who she is and have arrested her father and his wife. In the year of 2012, Opelika police and the Lee County Coroner's Office started an investigation after someone found a human skull believed to be that of a child. A resident discovered the skull in the 1700 block of Hurst Street near Brookhaven's trailer park, near a home there, according to the statement released by the Opelika police. The call to the police came on a Saturday morning just before 11 a.m. Police had secured the area around where the skull was found and called in representatives of the coroner's office, but no other remains could be located. However, during the search of the area, a pink child shirt and a small bundle of curly hair were also recovered. The investigation was ongoing, and 2 days later, more skeletal remains were found when another search of the heavily wooded area adjacent to the trailer park unearthed more human remains within about 50 to 75 feet of where the skull was found. All remains found went to the Alabama Department of Forensic Science in Montgomery, and from there the remains were sent to the FBI laboratory in Quantico, Virginia, where a medical examination was performed. At the time, the police department said the testing could take a while, but in the meantime, the department had issued statewide and regional notice for any missing children. The lab of the Federal Bureau of Investigation report says the remains were that of a female of African American descent. The bones appear to be that of a child about 4 to 7 years of age. The child will go on to be known as Opelika Jane Doe or Baby Jane Doe to the community. An autopsy was performed and notated fractures to her skull, arms, legs, shoulders, and ribs, totaling more than 15 different fractures, and were associated with blunt force trauma. All the injuries had evidence of healing and occurred sometime prior to her death. In addition, the medical examiner suggested that Baby Jane Doe may have been malnourished and blind in her left eye due to a fracture in her eye socket. Jane Doe's death was determined to be a homicide and believed to have been occurred somewhere between the summer of 2010 and 2011. Since the discovery of her remains, detectives have reviewed over 15,000 case files from the Alabama Department of Public Health and investigated thousands of tips. Years had passed with no solid leads, and in 2016, finally, investigators received a tip that the Opelika Jane Doe may have attended Vacation Bible School at the Greater Peace Church in 2011, 3 miles from where the human remains were found. Photos were then released of the young child at Bible school, and investigators believe that the child in the photographs was the unidentified child. An artist did a rendering of what she potentially may have looked like and released it in hopes of someone recognizing her. However, even after that, the remains of the young child has still remained a mystery, and it seemed that the Opelika Police Department attempts to develop a DNA profile for Baby Jane Doe were unsuccessful due to the conditions of the remains. More years would pass with nothing new happening, and it was decided in January 2022 to send Baby Jane Doe's remains to Ortham's laboratory in Woodlands, Texas. Othram scientists successfully developed a DNA extract from the remains and built an extensive genealogical profile. Finally, Ortham uploaded the profile to a genealogical database to enable a search for genetic relatives. For the genetic genealogical research, Opelika Police Department retained Barbara Ray Ventry, famed genetic genealogist, biologist, and retired patent attorney. Barbara and her team, the Firebird Forensic Group, would eventually produce investigative leads that were returned to the Opelika Police Department. By October of 2022, Baby Jane Doe's father was identified as 50-year-old Lamar Vickerstaff Jr., who was born and raised in Opelika, Alabama. Before enlisting in the U.S. Navy, during his lengthy Navy career, he resided in Norfolk, Virginia, Honolulu, Hawaii, and Jacksonville, Florida. In December of 2022, Opelika detectives traveled to the naval station Mayport in Jacksonville, Florida, where Mr. Vickerstaff was currently stationed, to notify him of his daughter's death. During the meeting, Mr. Vickerstaff did not provide investigators with any information on the identity of baby Jane Doe. Detectives would then meet with his wife, Ruth Vickerstaff, who had been married to Lamar since May of 2006, but she told detectives she did not know of her husband's daughter or who baby Jane Doe's mother may be. However, Dr. Ray Ventura would be able to determine several possible matches for baby Jane Doe's mother, and detectives were able to narrow the results down to a woman living in Baltimore, Maryland. In December of 2022, detectives met with 37-year-old Amore Wiggins, who confirmed she was the biological mother of baby Jane Doe. Now, at this point, Miss Wiggins, who was a native of Norfolk, Virginia, stated she gave birth to a baby girl named Amore Wiggins in January of 2006, but lost custody of her. She would provide documents showing that Lamar and Ruth Vickerstaff obtained legal and physical custody of her daughter in 2009, at which time her visitations with Amore were suspended and she had to pay child support. She would also provide documentation indicating that she has continuously paid child support to Lamar Vickerstaff since 2009, so Lamar and Ruth Vickerstaff would be getting money for a child that was no longer alive. How horrible. Detectives then reached out to the school board and pediatric clinics in several states where Lamar and Ruth Vickerstaff resided, and determined that Amore was never enrolled in school, nor was she reported as a missing child. With this information, Opelika detectives met with the Lee County District Attorney's Office to determine charges related to the death of Amore Wiggins. Now, after all these years, on January 17, 2023, Lamar and Ruth Vickerstaff were arrested in Jacksonville, Florida. Lamar Vickerstaff was charged with felony murder, and Ruth was arrested for failure to report a missing child. They are currently being held at the Jacksonville Sheriff's Office pending extradition to Lee County, Alabama.
A cold case that haunted detectives for years now cracked. The big break with the capture of two fugitives here in Jacksonville. The News4JAX I-Team was there for the takedown as a specialized Jacksonville Sheriff's Office task force arrested Ruth Vickerstaff in a traffic stop near her Northside home. After learning she was in custody, her husband, Lamar Vickerstaff, arrived at the scene and turned himself in. Lamar was a chief engineman in the Navy, based most recently in Mayport.
This case remains under investigation, and detectives still need the public's assistance in gathering additional details regarding Lamar and Ruth Vickerstaff's relationship with Amore Wiggins and her time spent in Opelika, Alabama. Hopefully they will confess to what truly happened all those years ago. She is believed to have passed in 2010 or 11 and was not found until 2012, so she would have probably been 4 to 6 years of age when she lost her life. I am just happy that she was found and that a lot of agencies took part in finding who she was, even though it took over a decade. There is so much more to this story, and I pray it comes out, and I hope for full justice for little Amore Wiggins, and my thoughts and prayers are with her mother and extended family. So please comment your thoughts and your prayers for this family in their difficult time, and hit that like button to share to make people aware. And as always, remember to stay woke. Things change quickly.